Hey, it's Christy and Amanda.
Two girls from Saskatchewan, Canada, living the Reiki life while working the 9 to 5. Hey, everybody. Welcome in to episode 35. We are officially in fall season and my favorite season. I think this is your favorite season too, isn't it, Christy?
Yes, I've really enjoyed this season.
Yes, I love pumpkin, and this is pumpkin spice everywhere. So I'm really, really excited to kind of close up summer. I've officially given up on my plants outside. So I am really ready to embrace fall and a whole new season. And in case this is your first time with us, you are here with my name is Amanda, and
I'm Christy.
And this is Living the Reiki Life podcast, where we talk about Reiki and other healing modalities and energy works and all the good stuff here. So welcome in. Christy, what's going on with you?
Yeah, I've had a ton of Akashic reading bookings and Akashic house clearing bookings. They just came out of nowhere, which was awesome. Like, I was so excited to dive in and just show people how special they are and show them their soul gifts and how can they live in more alignment with who they are and dive into past lives and figure out how that's affecting their current life. It's just, there's so much magic in the Akashic records. It just, like, I had a reading last night and my mind is still blown by it. Like, I just can't believe the accuracy that comes through. It's just, yeah, it leaves me speechless. I can't believe it. And Eva, I was talking to my Akashic record teacher, Kayla, and she's been doing this for 5 years, and she said she still gets her mind blown, how things like line up and come through and the aha moments for the clients. And yeah, it's so neat. And I was reading about like the eclipse season with what's happening right now. And it's really interesting because this makes sense why people are booking Akashic readings with me, is because with this eclipse, we're trying to get rid of stuff that holds us back from like a past life, spiritual baggage, and karma. So we need to clear that away so then we can embrace our soul gifts, but we have to purge it first. So it's like the clients that are innately know this and they're booking with me, it just makes so much sense with where we are in like the cycle, the lunar cycle or whatever you want to call it. So I found that really fascinating because eclipse seasons are powerful for letting things go and starting fresh, just making that room and clearing the way.
Yeah, that is powerful. And you do need to release that old stuff to make room for the new. And great timing that everyone is finding you now. I love it too that we're approaching a new season. So it feels really good to start new things and leave the old ones like in the summer where they belong.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, it just feels so in alignment. And I have, I think, 3 readings today after we're done here, I'm going to dive into. So it's going to be like a full day in the Akashic. So it'll be fun.
That is great. And I don't think there will ever be a point where I'm not excited when something really lands or be blown away. I love it when I'm doing Reiki and I say things and they're like, yeah, how did you know? Or absolutely, that really resonates. It's just, I love that feeling of almost validating other people too. Like when you tell her stuff about the reading, they're like, oh, yes. You know, they're like, thank you for saying that. It's so validating. That makes you feel really good.
It does. It really does. And it's just, they're heard, they understand themselves deeper, and I have validation of what I'm bringing through is correct. And because there's a lot of times where stuff's coming through and I was like, I don't know, I guess I'll say this, and I trust myself, and of course it lands. So I just got to keep trusting.
Bravo. That is right. And we talk actually a lot about that in our episode today, about being able to trust yourself and that guidance when we talk with Rhonda today.
What's going on in your world?
So I taught my first Reiki level 2, and that was great. So Reiki level 2 is when you really start practicing on other people. So we had a practice person come in to help us out, and it was really fun and really awesome to just help somebody along and kind of guide them. And this is what I would do. And this is how I sweep energy. And I really loved mentoring someone. And when someone is brand new on their Reiki journey, they're so excited. And it's almost like seeing Reiki through fresh eyes again. They just have this zest and excitement and wanting to learn, and they're so fascinated. And I loved being in that energy. And then even catching up with her a few days after, like, how's it going? How are you being able to practice? And just her telling me her stories about how she would practice on a friend and she could feel the heat and tingling. And
Yeah.
wow, that's awesome. It just lights them up and gets them excited to keep going. And what else is there? And giving someone their attunements is just a beautiful process. And I love what comes through even when I'm attuning them and the messages. It is awesome. So I'm really, really excited. I have a couple level ones that I'm teaching here next week, and I'm really, really excited just to mentor new people and help people out on their journeys and you practice with them. We're going to do another practice with our level two and just making sure that they feel good and grounded so they can go out and start Reikiing others.
Oh, that's amazing. You know, it kind of takes you back to where we first started and when
It
we first
does.
felt that energy and how exciting it was. Oh, I
Yeah.
just love that. You really found your groove there with teaching.
Yes, yes, it feels good. It feels really good, and I'm always excited about it. So I'm really excited to see like how this advances and where it goes, and just help other people see what's unique and special with them. Because we're all
Yep.
gonna probably do Reiki in a little bit of a different twist. And
Yep.
you know how I Reiki is a little different than you, and a little different than the other guy. And what are your special things? And I just want
Yeah.
to embrace those and nurture them.
Yes. Yeah. That's when you know you have a good teacher. When you
Yeah.
like, you really care about the person and you want them to flourish and you want them to thrive and you're able to find those special gifts in them. That is so special.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Okay, should we get into astrology?
Yeah. Let's see what's going on.
Okay, so we have a solar eclipse with the new moon in Libra on October 2nd. So Libra is an air sign, and it is the Justice card in the major arcana in the tarot deck. So the picture is a man, he's sitting on a throne, and he has like the Justice weigh scales in his hands, along with a sword in the other. So when I see this card, I usually think of balance and also things balancing out even karmically. So this is kind of funny, Christy, with what you said about like the Akashics and clearing up all those old things. This is a great time to focus on relationships and find balance on the way we connect with others. The solar eclipse with the new moon really helps with welcoming new people into our lives. So new moon's all about new seeds. Libra also rules commitment. So how are we showing up in our relationships and strengthening those bonds that we do have with our loved ones? And kind of fitting in Canada, it'd be Thanksgiving coming up shortly after this new moon. So a good time to really strengthen those relationships if you'd want to. And then we have the full moon on October 17th in Aries. So this is a fiery sign. Aries is the emperor in the tarot deck, and this would be a man. He is standing there with his arms crossed, a real masculine energy, kind of strong and stubborn. Aries can be quick to get emotional and act on impulses that we may regret later. And actually, when I was writing this out, I had this image of the movie Beauty and the Beast when Bella's like, you have to learn how to control your temper. Because it's like we're so quick to react and get kind of hot-headed, and this fiery full moon might enhance that a bit. So just something to keep in mind. On the flip, though, Aries is a really good energy to take action. So if you've been struggling to get started on something or even move away from something, you can really use this energy. Aries is also the first zodiac sign. So if you think about what those New Year's resolutions and those intentions that we set, how are they coming along? And we are also now embracing a new season. So, like a new cycle. So, think of what you want to bring in and what needs to go, what's not serving you anymore. And because this is a fire sign, full moon, this might be a good time even to do a fire ritual if you'd like. So, if you are thinking about wanting maybe to do like a formal releasing ritual, write things down on a paper that you are ready to be released. Send it away with love, of course, and then light that paper on fire. Make sure you are in a very controlled environment, of course, and then burn the note. And it's just a great symbolic way of releasing all that energy out. I've done this many times and I love it. I love it. I love it. I love just watching, getting a visual of all those things that they don't serve me. Away they go.
Yeah, I enjoy fire too. It's just there's something really cleansing about it, and it just yeah, it's just like a powerful ritual when you're ready to let go. Just yeah, like you said, watching that burn and watching the smoke. It's just yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like it too.
Yeah, today's episode, we have one of our OG guests back, Rhonda. We had so much good feedback from when she was first on our episode, and some of you booked in readings with her and mediumship readings, and she's just such a special soul. So we were so excited to sit down with her today and just find out what she's up to.
She really talks about overcoming that self-doubt and how we kind of limit ourselves and really just stepping into our power. She really stresses the importance of that. So there's some definitely good takeaways even for Christy and I and good reminders. So we hope that you enjoy.
Yeah. Today we are thrilled to have our first guest, Rhonda, back on the show. In our first chat with Rhonda, it was back on episode 4, and we delved into her path to becoming a channel for spirit. We explored the realm of archangels and much more. It was truly an enjoyable episode. And for those who haven't tuned in yet, Rhonda is a certified spiritual medium, an advanced angel empowerment practitioner, and a dear friend of ours. We're excited to catch up with her again today. So welcome, Rhonda.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yay, it's so awesome having you back. We got so much great feedback from the last time you were on, so it's so awesome. And then it really inspired Christy and I both to have another reading with you because we were both kind of wondering what's up on the business front for both of us. So that was amazing, so worthwhile, gave me some great insight. So if anyone's looking for some more, I don't know, insight into their spiritual business, highly recommend.
Mm-hmm.
And Rhonda, so like what's been going over for you in the last year? What's changed? What's new and exciting?
What's changed for me, well, new, is more and more people are coming to see me for mediumship, which is different and good. I've kind of embraced it a little bit more than what I typically did. Also, I'm doing more shows, and I'm kind of going out there on my own, more so instead of a group. And then as well, I don't know if any of you heard the Galaxy Psychic Fair. I got accepted into that. So so for people in Saskatoon, that's the one that usually comes once or twice or once or every other year at the Galaxy, or sorry, at the Travelodge. So that's the show I just got accepted to, and
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, I was quite excited about that. So that's kind of been what's happening as far as myself goes, and then pairing it with like going for social work for schooling and stuff, which it actually has helped quite a bit as well, because it's given me some foundations to where I can, like, all my sessions are downloaded, but now I actually have practical tools when I'm done my degree to help people as well.
That's amazing. Because, yeah, with, I know lots of people talk about being like trauma informed, like how to respond when somebody's like going through trauma or like if they're releasing. That's something that I kind of get nervous about when that kind of thing comes up. I just want to, I hope that I'm holding the space for that person at that time. I just trust that the angels got my back, but to actually have training on that, I think would be super beneficial in sessions going forward.
Yeah. And then also, like, what I've also told people and what we've been kind of trained to do with that kind of stuff is, like, sometimes people do come with you with that extreme trauma. And that's where you trust your guides to say, this is what I think is happening, but I need to refer you to an actual trained professional.
Yeah.
whether it
I've
be
done
going
that.
seeing a
No.
like trained therapist, counselor, psychologist, or whatever. So it's actually ethical to do that because you can, when you're not trained in that, you can cause more damage
Mm-hmm.
than good. But it's also, you know, you get what you get when you're downloaded, and you've downloaded it that for a reason. But sometimes, well, a lot of times the angels won't go that much further in it, but then they'll say, you need to get, you need to go and get counseling. And actually, I just finished the exhibition, and I had to refer a couple of people to say, this is how much I can give you, but you have a lot of stuff that I'm not qualified to give you that information. So, now whether they choose to take that advice, that's on them. But, if you're not trained, you shouldn't be going into like major life traumas.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we do a Reiki session, it's really important. It's just like, this is what's coming through. And like, we would never tell someone to stop taking their medication or stop going to see the professional. Just like, this is what we see. And then let them kind of talk it out and make sense of it on their own and just kind of hold the space for it. What we
Right.
would do in Reiki. Yeah. We would never try to diagnose anything because
Yeah.
that would
No.
definitely not be our place.
Yeah. Like, and that's the same too. Like, I will get aches and pains or something. I'll go like, I'm going, gee, is your back sore? And it's like, yeah. And I said, well, it feels like you need to go get a massage, or, you're holding tension or whatever it is, right? Like, the stuff that we do, I do believe that it is important to our overall mental health wellness, but it's a complement. It's not, oh, what am I trying to say here? It's not where we're, like you said, yes, you still need to go see a doctor, right? Where some people will sometimes assume that this path is an alternative. And yes, it's alternative medicine or alternative form, but it's not negating by any stretch professionals that are in the healthcare business.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just having, like, I have my team of healers that I know who to go see. It's like, okay, this happened. I'll go see my therapist. Okay. I want some answers. I'm going to go here. I want my energy done. Like, it's just learning who does what and just forming your little team of healers. I think that's important too.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I talk about how like I assemble my physical team of like my therapist and my homeopath and all of that, I remember when I had my reading with you, Rhonda, you were talking about your team, and I just assumed it was like a team of people, but you're like, no, it's like my team, like my spiritual team. So how did you start to like assemble that team? Like how did that all transpire?
So I've always kind of knew I had a team, and that's just kind of from my bringing up, like going to church and, with that. But how I developed my personal connection with the team is one, it was kind of through the Advanced Angel Empowerment Practitioner course that I took, where we got to work with the Archangels more intimately, one-on-one. So what I did was I worked, so it was kind of a dual. I worked with my clairs as well as my angels. So I would call upon Archangel Michael, for example, and I'd be like, okay, so day one, I just want to work with him on what visuals do I get. So often I'll get a sword, I'll get a lot of times purple, sometimes gold with him. he comes to me on the back of my spine, right? So I do the feeling. We kind of talked about, and that's why that book that I created last time is because that's how a lot of people were interested. They're like, well, how can I build that? So that's why I created that document piece, is so people can do that. So what I did was work with each archangel for a whole week, but kind of halfway through, or about once a month, let's just say, is it just so I kind of knew the feeling. I like, okay, it's exam week for myself, right? So like every week I worked with certain angels. So I'm like, okay, this time I want an angel to come visit me once a day. Don't tell me who it is, because like I said, we set the parameter. So then I'm like, oh, okay, this is Archangel Michael. This is the messages he wants me to give today. This is Archangel Nathaniel. These are the messages that you want to do. So sometimes in my reading, what will happen is a specific angel will come through, and I can say to the client that, okay, this is Archangel Jophiel wants to give you this specific message, right? When I do readings, I know it's usually my whole team with me, so I don't get any like real sensations that it's one stepping forward over the other, that they're coming in. But when a certain angel comes forward, I'll let my client know. It's like, okay, this is who's stepping forward for right now. And then what traditionally happens now, it's not all the time, but what will happen, or can happen, I should say, is a loved one who has crossed over will come through in my readings as well. And then I will let them know. Usually I'll preference my readings beforehand, because some people don't want mediumship and they don't want people to know. And you can cause damage sometimes, because say if they're angry at their dad, they don't want to know anything, but their dad's coming through, right? You can cause some real energetic problems. So that's why I'll preference a lot of my readings ahead of time to give permission. If somebody comes through, do you want to know?
So do you have like a thing? Are you like team assemble and then they come in, or is it more like, or do you like meditate a little bit and just visualize them coming in? Like, how does that? And like everyone has a team, right?
Yeah.
It's whether we like know how to really work with them. Would that be fair?
Right. Yes. So I do it in two ways. So like in the morning, I usually have my set routine. It's like usually Archangel Nathaniel. He's really, out of all the angels, I would say he's the most blunt and prompt. Like if you want to work with him, you need to set that schedule, because he will get angry if you don't set it. Like use the rest of them, I call are very chill. But part of Nathaniel's thing is organization, promptness, right? So if you're disorganized, like he's great if you're disorganized and want stuff done, but you need to get ready.
I need him in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So funny.
So
All the business runners do.
yeah. But usually I'll just say, like, what do you need me to know? So like this last little while, I've been seeing 444. Like, and though that is an angelic angel number to saying your angels are around you. But it's like, okay, like I have to really think, okay, what's going on that I keep seeing 444? Because I know my team's around me. So either I'm missing something, or just to say we're here. So in my day to day, that's how they kind of come. Like I just know that they're with me. When I go into readings, whatever, is I'll usually take about 15 minutes or so before I go into a reading, and just kind of meditate, set things up, and just kind of go with the flow, what they want me to know. And sometimes, usually I will have a pretty good idea if somebody's going to come over that have crossed over. Not always the case, but I usually do know.
What happens there? Is it just a knowing, or is there like a tingling or a voice?
Sometimes I'll get, it really kind of depends on the person that comes through. It's just usually because I'll usually write notes or like usually have something that I write on, and then I'll find, oh, I'm actually channeling a message. So I'm a big proponent of channeling, where I'll just like download stuff and write it out or whatever. So it's just like, yeah, like that's just how I tend to connect, where I know it's not my own thoughts. And so when I teach people how to channel, you know, I'll usually do, okay, we'll ask a question. What day or what am I supposed to do today? Right? So then I'll get you to write it down in your own voice. What's my day? And then I'll say, okay, let's work with call in Archangel Michael. Same question. And I'll get them to write it down. So I'll usually do that 3 times. One with your own voice, and then we'll call in various angels. So I'll usually call in 2, and then I'll say, you just pick one. And people get amazed because they're like, how different those messages are. So that's how I usually teach the channeling, because it helps even in the sense when you have a problem, where you get into your own head. It's like, hey, what am I supposed to do? Like, but I always start simple in that sense. Like, what is it that you want to do? You don't want to get too deep, because then they create blocks right away. Right. And you're not going to get paragraphs. That's the other thing a lot of people think too, is that, they're going to, like, a lot of times when they said, like, when people hear me, I'll hear words. Like, I'm not even necessarily hearing whole sentences, where with the channeling, I might get sentences, but I'll just hear words, or I'll see visions, like in my third eye. As far as spirit goes, the only spirit who I've actually seen in the physical is my grandfather Sean. He's the only one that I have seen in the physical. However, I do sense a lot of spirits, and that's where I'll say, okay, well, they're behind you right now, on their left side or your right side, or usually I'll get the sides mixed up because I'm one terrible with direction. But I'll be like, okay, on this side, I'll just point to them or whatever, saying on this side, this is where your grandmother is, or wherever, right? And usually how I feel that, I'll see it in the sense of my third eye, but a great tool that I have is, I don't know if you guys have ever seen them, the divinity rods that Tracy Banga and her husband, they created. So a lot of times they'll point out where spirit is. That's how I use those rods for a lot of people, so they can physically see where their loved ones are behind them or whatever for at that time.
That's amazing. It sounds like you channel a lot like I do. Like, you see things and then you hear a random thing and then you're writing stuff out. And yeah, that's the way I work too. And you just never know what's going to happen. That's kind of like the fun part of it too. And like one session can be very different from the other. It just depends on, I guess, what that person needs at that time.
Yeah. And that's where an angel reading is very different than a psychic reading. A lot of times psychic readings are more like futuristic. This is what's going to happen. Where an angel reading, not that they can't say stuff in the future, because I've done that, have seen that as well. But the angel readings are more in the now. What do you need to know now to help you move forward for the future, or to help you, and or really to help you get unstuck from the past, right? Because a lot of times we tend to live in the past instead of being in the moment, worrying about the future, right? So it's just like, okay, so I do have tools that can help. A lot of times is releasing those if you have confidence beliefs, or like one of my things that I really had to get over was self-worthiness. So for me, like it was a lot of work because it was like highly ingrained in myself. But we did an energy ball release and then a past life healing because it went beyond this, beyond my first life or whatever, like in the present. But with that, a past life healing is, yes, I go into the past lives, but it's not a past life regression like some people do. All it is, it's like, okay, where did you get like, I have a fear of snakes. I don't want to get over the fear, so I've never actually really dealt with it. I wouldn't do something around it because I'm okay being scared of snakes. But what they would do is like, where did the initial snake trauma come from that I want to release? So, because if we done the energy and I'm still a little bit afraid, it's like, okay, it's a past life thing. So then they would like take it far back, and then all they would see is like, oh, this is where it kind of happened. And then they bring you back. And you, as the client, isn't going back. It's your practitioner that's going back.
Oh, interesting. Okay. And then the angels are kind of like guiding the scene or like what's going on.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like, okay, here's the timeline. This is the now. They'll usually it's Archangel Azrael will take me back. No, sorry. It was Jeremiah. Sorry, not Azrael. Jeremiah will take me back to drop me in, but they don't actually drop me in. It's just more like a bird's eye view. It's like, oh, okay, they were trapped in a pit of snakes or whatever. So then they bring it back and then we go from there. And that's where like a lot of things happen. Like, one thing with working with the angels, there's a lot of affirmation work because that's really the way to really eliminate a lot of our belief system. And a lot of people with affirmations, they don't think they work because it's not an overnight cure.
Yeah, I give up after like 2 days and I'm like, this doesn't work.
Right.
So I'm one of those people.
Yeah. And the reason why a lot of people don't think it's working because all that negative stuff comes up, right? It's like, okay, I love myself, but you trained your brain and your brain's learning something new. So it battles. Oh. So the negative stuff actually is coming up. It's actually good because it's boiling to the surface to finding its way out. Right. So that's why the affirmations are so important and why it takes so long because you've trained your brain how to treat, because the brain humans don't like change, even though we're designed for change, but we want to be comforted. We want to be comfortable. So when we do something going outside of ourselves, we're like, oh, do I want to? That's why kids are so good at trying new things because they haven't developed something to say, no, you can't do that. Or because they're the ones that will jump off. Like, how many boys and girls do you see climbing to the top and jumping off? Like the fridge, or you're like, no, don't do that. But
yeah, well, it wasn't when we interviewed Haley with the hypnotherapy, like it takes almost like a full year to really unprogram the old programming. Unless you're under a state of hypnosis, it's a lot faster. But yeah, that's why you really do have to stick with those affirmations. And I agree with you too on that, the way stuff comes in and for the angel readings. it's like I can get scenes of what's happening in the right now, like what's happening now and relay it. And then like the last one I just did, it's like I can see three paths like ahead of you and which like you're gonna have three choices. But I didn't go down each path to see what was up. It's just like this is where you're at now, and it's almost like something's gonna happen. Like, and you're gonna
Right.
have three choices.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and it's
But
like
see,
words
because of
and
the free, oh, sorry.
pictures. Yeah,
Yeah. And
no, that's
because
it.
of the free will, the three
Hmm.
paths, right? It's not your
Yeah.
choice, but they just know that there's going to have three options, right? Because that's the other thing that the angels will never tell you. Like, I get a lot of people that's like, oh, should I break up with my boyfriend or should I? And it's like, well, you already know what you like. The angels aren't going to say, yes, you should, no, you shouldn't.
I
The
know if
only
you're
time,
asking me, you
yeah,
know what the answer is,
yeah,
right? It's awful,
yeah.
I know.
Basically, the only time I've had this once where they told me it was because this person's life was in so much danger, right? Like that's the
Yeah,
only time that they said, no, you need to leave. But
right.
otherwise, as far as when it goes to choices and stuff like that, they're not going to tell you what they're going to give you options. But at the end of the day, because of free will, it's your choice. And a lot of times, if you're asking me that question, you already know the answer. You're just wanting validation.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I never want to be held responsible for like telling someone to go do this, leave that, quit that job. Like I that doesn't sit right with me, and I wouldn't want someone to tell me that in turn. I know some people are like, "Oh, tell me everything." And it's like, I don't know if you want to like I don't know. I just with predictions, I think there's a time and place for them, and I always trust that the angels have my back on that.
Right. Yeah. Like I do a year in view readings or whatever. And like, and then this is just to set you up. It doesn't always necessarily mean that this is the month that it's going to happen. But with with the year in views, they're pretty accurate, but just sometimes a little something might change, or you might have made a different decision, which at the time of the reading, when you got it done, you were at this stage, right? Where it's like in May, say if you were supposed to leave a job, but you kind of backed out or whatever, then the trajectory might have changed a bit, right? But doesn't mean it's still not going to happen,
Mm, yeah,
but
I've had one of those reviews, those year reviews, and it was bang on. Yep.
yeah. Yeah, and like I said, I just trust what I get. Like, I don't, Christy, are you okay if I share this story? I'm not going to get into personal with you, but when I did your guys' year in view, and I also did your partners, I purposely didn't do your partners back to back. I did yours on a different day or whatever. And then, because this is at the time you were kind of getting married, right? Where I was like, oh, okay. Because that's how come I didn't want to do it back to back. So I did his came up, and it was weird because around the same timeline, I was kind of I'm like, I felt like I've written this out before. And sure enough, right? Like, so I don't usually do people that are connected right after each other for that reason, because part of it might be ego on my end. And also I was just practicing doing that. And so I wanted to have some, validation, I guess. I was looking for people that were willing to have it done and just to see, because before I offered it as a service, I wanted to see if they were accurate or not.
Yeah, yeah, and that was like 5 years ago because we'll be married 5 years this year. Yeah, that was such a neat reading. I still have it tucked away, and I'll pull it out and read it sometimes too, and just like, wow, that came true, and it's just so neat to have like the year like kind of laid out in like a loose way, just like something to look forward to, or maybe something to be aware of. And yeah, I recommend those. And you could, it's not like you have to wait till the new year. You can do those anytime, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Traditionally, most of them get them done in the new year or their birthdays or, you
Oh,
know,
birthday. Yeah.
but
Both of
it's
those are
for
fun
whatever,
days.
right? Like whenever you want them done, you know. So, and they are like, it does take me a lot of time to do it. But it is only 1 or 2 sentences that you kind of get for, you know, each month, right? So sometimes I don't know if people are disappointed. I haven't had any negative feedback on them, but you know, sometimes I wonder, it's like, oh, are people are expecting more? Because like I said, it is usually only about 1 or 2 sentences for each month, right? So
Yeah, that's all you need.
Yeah.
yeah,
Just a guideline.
Yeah, I think so. Just like a theme for that month. So do you
yeah,
go in and pull cards like for each month? Is
yes,
that, yeah? Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And then what I'll do, like sometimes spirit will come through again. Those ones I usually don't ask for permission in that sense, because it's just the type of message that they're getting. Like they're not getting like great insight, you know, like it's just like the grandmother might be guiding you and just wants, you know, I think in yours again was like your grandma was going to be there and it's going to cause, you know, you might see birds or whatever, right? Like something
Yes.
along that line. Um, but traditionally it is the angels, like, because I'll kind of like, usually there is a theme that kind of comes up for the month. And then I kind of write out what the theme is. And then we go into month by month.
Going in with that. So I know you pull cards. Like when we come and we go for a reading with you, you pull the cards. But like I'm watching you, you pull these cards and then you go into your own space, kind of look up at the ceiling, and I can just see like she's not even reading these cards. Why is she even pulling these? Like it's just for like my comfort. Like, and you're gonna start channeling anyways. It's so
Yeah.
funny.
And yeah, you are you are correct on that. Majority of the time, I would say 8 out of 10 times, I'm personally not using the cards. Like they are more for the client. However, sometimes I get downloaded so much, I use the cards more or less as this is the direction that they need to know or where they want to go. That's more or less, but majority of the time I don't use the cards for my benefit anyway. That's just how I download, like, and that's how I wouldn't say trained to be downloaded. That's just how I did it. Like, cause I'll just even remember, well, I remember one time being, I'll give you one time I was in church and the priest was telling something or in his homily, and I heard that's not right. Like you don't really need to, that, is not the belief system or whatever. So that's like, so I've always kind of trusted those messages, that it's like, because that's also where it's like, hey, because I've had the ability to go, okay, is this my voice or is this somebody else's voice? Right. So, and that's where I kind of know that, oh, this is somebody else's. This is my team talking to me.
And just to clarify for some people, like when you hear things, it is in your own voice. Like but you just know it's not your thought. Like I know,
Right.
like when I was really new, I kind of thought, oh, well, I'm going to hear this angelic voice come in, and that's how I'm going to hear. No, it's not like that. It's your own voice. It's your own thought coming in, but it's different. It's almost like for me, it's on a different side. And then I just know that it's like, it's not my thought, like you said. Yeah.
Right. And that's partly why I encourage people who want to have that connection is the channeling. because then they do get to see, okay, this is like, they physically see it on paper. This is my voice. This is so and so's voice, right? Where it's just that easy. Like, you know, it really is just that easy. And it's just a matter. And that's why journaling, I find, is very important. Doesn't mean you have to journal, but if you're starting to learn and kind of differentiate yourself, right? And yeah, and like your audience members can very easily just do it on themselves. They don't even need the conduit, right? Like, because they are the conduit. But it's just like, pull out a question, always start with yourself, and then just kind of go down the list. And the thing is, though, you can even do that with loved ones that have crossed over, right? It doesn't just have to be your angel team or or whoever, you know. For some odd reason, like the odd time, I'll get fairy energy, right? Like it's like,
What's
oh,
that like?
okay, this is new for me, but clearly they wanted to come in and play.
Yeah, what does that feel like for you? I'm curious.
Very light and joyful.
Joyful.
They're
Oh, okay.
very like, and even I would call them a little bit of tricksters or playing.
Yeah.
You know, because they want you to be light and joy, right? Like they want you to get out of your own head, and because we make things more difficult than what we have to be. Right. And like, even though I'm even in this world and I know things, I still will at times make things more difficult for myself than what they would have to be. It's like, oh, I, should have known better, but I didn't listen.
Yeah, that's just part of being human. That's for sure. Yeah, fairies. Well, fairies have come by in sessions with you, Amanda, and with me, and yeah, it's fun. Like soon, like I have a smile on my face, and yeah, it just feels so joyful, and like the vibration is just so high. Definitely can feel the difference between them and like the angels.
Yeah. Yeah, and for like your listeners, like play with that. Like, and what was interesting is too, I never experienced this, but a lady that Tracy, she was calling in dinosaur energy, and she's like, where is that coming from?
What?
But she said but she said it 3 times, so she knew that. I was like, okay, this is weird. Like, but she thought because she was trying to say dragon energy, but it was coming out dinosaur. So it was like, so I think, I don't know if she's going to play with that or not, but clearly that came in for a reason.
Yeah. There's so many different like realms and different things like you can tap into. Really, like it's endless.
Yeah.
Which is so fun too.
Right. And that's kind of what's exciting, where people are starting to open again, because really it's just a matter of playing.
Yeah.
Right? Like allowing yourselves to go off in different imaginations and in different worlds, right? Like really that's the idea of books and reading, and it's using that imagination, where a lot of times we've kind of cut that out somewhat because we're told to. And being in the education field that I am in as a EA, I can see where sometimes that, like, even though they try to teach imagination, but they also, it's like almost the opposite too, where they're not teaching it either. You have to be sensible and practical, where imagination is always stepping out of the box, right? And like, that's one thing I really found when I really started working with the angels, is like how much they push you outside your comfort zone. Like they don't let you play small.
That's where the growth happens, for sure.
Yeah.
So awesome. So, Ron, is there like a specific topic that people really seek you for? I know probably love is a big one. You're talking about, should I stay in this relationship, for like career or finances or all of the above? And like, do you have a favorite?
they kind of come to me for everything. However, usually for me, it is some form of healing that they'll come for. Part of that is, I think, because of the intention I've set, because I want people to have a good experience with the readings, but also it's more, like I said, again, kind of going back to a typical psychic reading, is I want some form of healing or transformation is probably a better word for it in the reading, right? It's like I want them to have these aha moments and going through there. But lately, and I don't know if this is kind of, I feel like sometimes the readings are just as much for me as they are for the other people. This last little while, it feels like it's been business related, people wanting to start their business, which makes sense because of the recession, inflation that we're in, right? People are realizing their jobs aren't as safe, so they want to create an income for themselves. So a lot of people are like trying new things. And this is a great opportunity to do it because just from past, history or whatever, like more millionaires were actually made in the 1930s, in the dirty 30s than ever before because jobs weren't there, right? So people created an income. And basically with entrepreneurship in that sense is, again, it's kind of that playing the safe, right? The job's gone. I have to create something. So I have to limit myself or like push myself out of something. So you're not afraid to try anything new because what do you have? You've lost your job, you lost your income. So, you're kind of forced to try something new, right? So sometimes, when we're asking for something, the angels will, or, your angels, angelic team will make things happen to make you move forward because that's what you ask, right? And with the angels, again, it's always asking. So if you're asking for courage, like the example is, if you're asking for courage, they're going to put you in probably some uncomfortable situations where you have to learn courage, right? So that's where being intentional in what you ask for and making sure what you're asking for is what you'll get.
Yeah, I always like to say when I ask, but please be gentle about it. Like, I'd like just because I want to advance my Reiki practice, please don't like let me get fired at my other job. It's like I still need that one, even though, sometimes that push would be kind of cool, but scary, very scary, and I'm not asking for that by any means. No.
Yeah. But there again, right? You set that intention. It's just, there's a lot of people, like it's that old story where the guy's, it's flooding and he made his way up to the hill and he's asking for help. Well, a boat comes by. No, I'm good. Like basically 3 different objects came by to help him off of it, and then he ended up passing away. And he said, like, well, I was asking for help. And he said, he said to God said, I sent you 3 things. It was your choice not to get on the boats.
I
Right?
remember that story from Christian ethics
Yeah.
when I was in high school. I sent you 3 things and you said no to all of them. God will help me. God will help me. God's trying to help you. The universe is trying to help you. Spirit, whatever, is sending you things all the time. Pay attention. Totally. Like, I love that story.
Yeah.
It's always stuck with me. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that story before too. And it just makes you think like, oh, right, the universe actually is working in my behalf and sending me things, but I'm just not paying attention.
Yeah. Well, like for me, like I believed I discussed it on your last podcast, but I got COVID really bad. It was the best thing that happened to me because I was so much in fear of making the choice to go back to school, where I was like, well, life's too short. Where I just like, okay, I'm going to go back regardless. Like, I'm not going to take a class here and there. Like, I'm actually going to commit to going back. But I know for a fact if I was in COVID or didn't get COVID, I probably, because I was in fear. I'm like, how is the finances going to work? How, like, all of that going to work for me? But guess what? It did.
Yeah, it all worked out in the end. And are you working and going to school?
Halftime. Yeah.
Halftime. Oh, okay. Oh, that's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
That's what
So
I would love to do.
yeah. So I'm halftime school. Sorry, I work as an educational assistant, like I said. So
That's perfect.
yeah. And I have a bad habit of saying school and school.
School. Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So halftime work, halftime school. And then this supplements. Because the intention is what I've been downloaded, at least from my spiritual team, is I'll be doing like spiritual counseling. Because my intention is to go into private practice,
Yeah.
And then doing spiritual counseling. So that's that kind of divine process, right? The divine knowing or whatever. Because one thing I do struggle with is in some ways free will and divine, like I don't know what you call it, where your life is already somewhat predestined for you. You just have to take the path. Right.
I've struggled with that thought too. It's just like, how much of this is destined for me, and how can I just change it? Or can I change it? Like, is stuff bound to happen? Like, I've seen people where, how do I even say this? I seen her life play out in a different way if she went this way or she went that way, but it really ended up in the same thing. It's like she was destined to go through what she went through. And I was like, how is that even possible? Like, she grew up in an entirely different family, and yeah, I don't know. It's bizarre. Maybe it has something to do with the lessons we're here to learn.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Well,
know.
that's something that I'm going, okay, like, because I legitimately thought I was going to be a teacher. Like, that's like, if you talk about like manifestation, like I turned my bedroom into a classroom. The way I studied was like a teacher and everything. And it was December 10th, 1984. I was in grade 5. And I knew this was the voice of God saying I wasn't going to be a teacher. And I'm
What?
like, yeah. And I was like, what? Like, that's all I ever wanted to do. That's all I ever wanted to be. My whole really existence was becoming a teacher. But obstacles were being constantly placed in my way for me not to be a teacher. So it wasn't really until I won Cindy's Angel Empowerment course, forget what year it was, like I think it was 2018, somewhere around there, where then we went into a meditation. And this is where I got my answer, was the reason why I wasn't meant, or I didn't become a teacher like I thought I was going to be, this was my work. And see, I've always kind of knew this was, but not in the way that it developed. And had I been a teacher, I would have ended up in the Catholic system, which wouldn't have allowed me to really do this work because of their belief systems. Now, I'm still a practicing Catholic. I don't necessarily agree with everything that's been practiced, but it has given me that foundation really to do this work and for the faith piece of it. But I was like, oh, I get it. So I am teaching. I am still going to be teaching, but not in the traditional way I thought I was going to be teaching. Right? Because, and how I kind of knew I was going to be in the Catholic system was because of my work, my one-on-one work with the angels. So I thought I'd be teaching religion, religion studies in that regard. Right? But with a little different little twist to it, because like I said, I don't necessarily believe everything that the Catholic Church teaches. So it'd be going against the grain a little bit, but I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. But that's how come I struggle with it, because I do feel like, if you were meant to do something, the universe will find ways for you to do it, whether you're kicking or screaming.
That's so true. And it's just building that trust muscle with your angels and your guides. Like during our reading, you were telling me that I need to put myself out there more. And you were getting that message too. Sorry if
Yep.
that's okay
No,
that
no,
I share
no,
that.
you're not
Okay.
crossing lines. Yep.
Okay. And how do you trust like those messages coming through, like, hey, you need to book this show, hey, you need to do this, you need to upload your website? Like, how do you trust that?
You just got to do, and it'll land the way it's supposed to land. One of my mantras that I've always believed in, but not necessarily always practiced, was everything's going to work out for you in your favor. Right? So one thing that I have tried not to do, if something where I expected was supposed to turn out, something better is going to come along for you. Right? So just from me competing in bowling, for example, like nationals was always my goal. Like I always wanted to go to nationals. And every time that I didn't go to nationals, something happened to me during nationals that what would have been nationals. I would have turned down an opportunity, or I wouldn't have gotten the opportunity for whatever reason. Because had I been at nationals at that time, something better, something else came along that was supposed to be more in alignment for it. Or on the flip side, not necessarily, but might have been a death in the family, which then if I had gone to nationals, I wouldn't have been able to go anyway. Right? So I have tried to be like, okay, this is happening for a reason. Something better is going to come along. Go with it. Like, yes, I'm not saying I'm not human where I'm not disappointed, but I'm kind of going like, oh, just wait. You need to take a step back and going, okay, this is happening for you for the betterment.
It's always that hindsight, looking back and having that look how everything played out, and you're like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
And just setting that intention too, when you're going to decide to do something, kind of like take that chance, I find is so important too. It's just like if you have that positive attitude, like I'm going to work on my website because I know people are going to click on it, and it's when they do, it's going to be ready and awesome. I honestly find that makes a big difference if you're working with the universe in that way, like to manifest.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been really conscious of that, and it's made a big difference.
Yeah. Well, and see, that's what happened. So, like I wrote recently on my blog that, like, in some ways I was ready to walk away from this because I felt like the universe was telling me I need to. So I'm part of the Angel Empowerment Wellness Center, right? So we're a collective, but I felt like my team was pushing me outside where I needed to do stuff myself. Right? So I was like, okay, I'm going to try it. But all of it kind of somewhat, well, I got disappointed because my shows didn't go as well as they were, and everything was happening. I was like, okay, I'm trusting that you won't push me out by myself. I am going out on myself. And it was like I was hearing crickets. Well, when I went into meditation, they're saying that you're lacking confidence. Like, I know what I do and I get good feedback, but it's almost like I sometimes feel like I'm still playing a little bit of imposter syndrome, right?
So how
So
do
it was like,
you?
so that's what was happening. And Archangel Raguel is the one that came through, and he's like, my child, you have the gift. You just got to believe and project that you know what you know and do what you do. So it was like, and he said, operate from an abundant mindset as opposed to a scarcity mindset. So it was like that shifted for me. So, like tomorrow, like this weekend, I have another show coming up, like 2 days of shows. So it's like, hey, like I'm preparing to bring out that energetic where energy, it's like, yeah, people are going to come to me because they want to. And I know I'm going to give good readings and I know I'm going to like, right? Because it's just like, I just got to believe it. And like, the thing is, well, my team has lined things up for me. Like I said, like earlier, I got accepted into the Galaxy Psychic Fair. Well, they vet people for that, right? Like,
Right.
not just anybody can just put their name in and they get accepted.
Yeah. So when you were working on building your confidence, and maybe just tips for other people too who are trying to like start out, and it is a thing, you have really good days and then some days for some reason that doubt kind of peeks in. So which archangel do you work with again to help with that?
Well, Archangel Raguel is the one that kind of came through for me.
Oh,
Traditionally,
okay.
it's like Archangel Michael is the one more of a business sense, and Archangel Nathaniel, when I'm kind of doing the back end stuff, will work with. But as far as the confidence, it is typically Michael, but it was Raguel that came through for me.
And then do you find it's just the more you do, the more your confidence kind of goes up, putting yourself out there. Oh,
Yeah,
that's so hard though. I think
yeah. And that was always my key message. Like, it was like, you need to put yourself, and I was just like, how? I don't know how to put myself out there any more than because I was doing stuff on Facebook and like I was doing stuff on Instagram and I just didn't felt anything. And then I was also doing shows and I was just like I was getting stuff, but I wasn't getting the return on investment, so to speak. Like, yeah, they were coming out looking for me at these shows, but they wouldn't book outside of the show. So what do I like? Because when I said to my team, like, I have no idea what more can I do to put myself out there. What I realized was I wasn't really putting out my confidence out there. I was like, oh, okay. I thought I was, but clearly my team was telling me, like, no, you're not.
so. Do you mind if I go deeper and just ask, so what did you do to change? What did you change?
I changed my mindset.
Oh yeah.
This one lady, it was interesting because it was at the downtown Broadway, or not the downtown Saskatoon Fair, whatever. And this is the one I got kind of really frustrated with because I thought, wow, like this one I was truly on my own. And well, we were in a heat wave for one, and I do not do well with heat. So on Thursday, I probably was already putting out energetically, I don't want to do readings because I was already getting miserable, even though I wanted to do readings, like, because I'm like, I do not want to sit here all day and not do a reading. But I was like, oh, I just need to cover my costs. Like, that's like, my intention after that day. And this one lady, she came the last day and she told me, she goes and sees, she paid for a half-hour reading. She said, you probably won't get a half an hour, but you can keep the money anyway. And I was like, well, we'll see. Like, it doesn't really matter. But I was like, okay. So I did the reading with her and she was just blown away. She goes, I see a lot of people She said, "You are one of the best I've seen. You're probably in my top 2." So I was like, "Oh, okay, thank you." Right. And then she gives me $100 tip. My I was like, "Holy cow." Right. Because I wasn't expecting, I was like saying, no, like, no. She goes, "No." Like, she goes, "You do not understand how good you are. Right. You should be charging more." But I was like, well, okay. And then and it was funny because I went long. And then afterwards, she came back and she felt so bad because she goes, "You actually went longer than a half an hour. I owe you more money." And I'm like, "No, no, you don't. You're good. Like, you don't keep it like that." But what that made, it wasn't so much the money, that it was just kind of like her coming by, because she said what got her interested was I was starting to shuffle my cards, and she was just walking by. And she asked if I did a reading because she was coming through the back instead of coming the front. Right. And I didn't have my wall up because it was hot. So that in itself was the divine guidance, right? And the divine intervention. So it was her that basically told me that I just need to keep going, you know? And as a result, she's like, she kind of gave me some marketing tips, or like to make myself kind of stand out. Cause that is one thing I kind of do struggle with, because I'm very simple in the sense, like, I don't like a lot of junk, like, you know, in, because that's like, but you need something to attract people to come to like your table. If it's not, especially on those types of vendor machine, like where it's a mishmash of things. So she's like, "Oh, well, if you do this or this, you might draw people in this way or whatever." So I was like, "Oh, okay." But yeah, but it's more mindset than anything, right? Because when you, like I said, even if you think you are doing something positive, you're kind of still, if you kind of have that limiting belief about it, you do put that energy out
Oh,
from it.
yeah. Yeah, totally. And that lady just feels like so divinely sent to you, hey? Like, just
Yeah.
here, you need a reminder that you are damn good at what you do. And here's more money. Like, here's
Yeah.
more abundance for you. I just love that. That is so
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. No, and it was the confidence boost that I kind of needed, because like I hear that all the time. Like, I'm going, "Okay, is that just ego, or is that, kind of the team?" Right? Because we're somewhat to believe that, we're not supposed to promote ourselves like positively, right?
You need to write
Or
those nice comments down and
yeah,
look at them.
yeah. So it's like, "Oh, okay, like I got this," right? But that's the other thing too. I don't get into the competitive energy. Like, you're meant to see who you're supposed to see,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, well, let's give an example. Like at the Fringe, there was a lot of readers there, which doesn't bother me any. But there was this one reader that a lot of people that take, I guess, do readings as somewhat professionally, I guess. There was a reader there that was doing kind of like a comedy reading or whatever, right? And they were just, I don't think they were only charging $10, but they kind of made it a spectacle or whatever, which is fine. Like, I have nothing against it. But it really affected a lot of the other readers. And I was like, why? Chances are, if they're going for that type of reading, that's who they were supposed to, they wouldn't get anything out of our readings anyway. Right? Like, but they were offended by it. And I was just like, that's okay. Like, they're just doing them, and they're not expecting anything great from them. Like,
Yeah.
they're just doing it.
That'd be like surface level
Yeah.
messages or something like that. Like, they're just going for fun. They don't want to hear from their grandma or hear about what they need to work on in life, or
Yeah. But it ticked a lot of other readers off that were out there.
yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just something out of the norm as well.
Well, and I think maybe because people think that this person was making fun of what we do or whatever too.
Yes.
But I think we come into a world where we just need to lighten up a little bit. Like everything, there is funny situations in everything, right?
100%. Yep.
So if we
Go
take
back to that joy.
get offended so easily, where's the joy? Where's the fun?
Yep.
It's not hurting anybody.
No.
Like the intent is not to hurt us with them doing those types of readings, right? And like there's some people that don't believe in it, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, that's their journey, and that's completely okay. I agree.
Yeah.
Same with Reiki. Some people, not for them, and that's great. That's their path. I wouldn't want to force or change anything about it.
No.
Yeah. And that's like even like a lot of people believe in angels, but they don't want to talk to other people on the other side. Right? Like so that's why I pre-warn people in my readings beforehand. Chances are if they had that belief system anyway, I would trust that like Archangel Azrael is usually the one that will help guide over. Chances are they wouldn't send somebody through anyway, but it's just nice to have that confirmation and confidentiality.
Yeah, I agree. I started doing that before my sessions. I mean, like, I can channel loved ones. Are you open to hearing a message if somebody comes through? And I've never gotten a no before, but sometimes I got one lady where she was like, I really want to hear from someone. And then crickets. And I was like, of course. Like,
Yeah.
but I trusted she needed to hear more about what was going on in her life and that type of thing rather than a loved one at that time. But still, when somebody is kind of hoping for that, you're like, damn.
Yeah.
Christy,
No, and I
had
agree
that
with
too.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the thing too, and this is a little bit of controversial thing that I'm going to say. If you've gone to a medium before for especially specific loved ones, you shouldn't go to another medium again to get the same, to connect, or even to the same one. Because
Oh.
the messages that you would have gotten in your initial reading would have been enough over again.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
basically everything that has to be said or needed to be said most likely would have been said.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Like
you know what happened when I couldn't connect in with somebody who wanted me to connect in? I actually just sent them to you. I was like, you know who can? Really, probably. I was like, go see my friend Rhonda. And then I'm sure they did.
yeah. But that's usually what happens. Right? Like there's no point in necessarily like I forget what happened. One of my readings, she said, "Oh, that's weird." I said, she goes, "Usually when I go to a medium, I'll get my grandmother, but this time the grandfather came through, or vice versa. It doesn't really matter." And I said, "Oh, well, have you gone for readings?" They go, "Chances are then they wouldn't come through for me anyway because they've said everything that they needed to say."
Mm-hmm.
Right? So somebody else will step forward. Or sometimes another person had more of an important message for them than the one that you were hoping to connect with. Right? But I do mediumship differently too when I'm at a trade show versus when I'm home in my place or on a one-to-one session. Usually, not always, but usually because of the type of energy that's in those places, I will ask who they're connecting, who they want to connect to. One, because it conserves my energy. Two, because it's such open spaces. I can connect to, somebody, so and so's energy or whatever. So I tell people, I said, this is what I'm going to tell you. If it does not resonate with you at all, just let me know and don't let me keep going on because I don't want to waste your time. Right? Like, and I'll explain, like, because I'm could be connecting to somebody else that it's not even related to you or whatever. So So I'll just explain what I'm getting. If that resonates, we'll keep going with it. If it doesn't, we'll move on. But I think that's where, in that sense, where people sometimes they'll just keep going with those messages instead of the confirmation. And if you explain your process ahead of time, people are more understanding of how you work. So then it doesn't feel like you're shooting fish in a barrel and kind of giving blasé, like standard messages, right? Like you're kind of going here, there, whatever, right? Because like one time I said, this sounds weird, but I'm going, like, they want me to mention gravy. And the client just hysterically started laughing. Said, well, that was my mom's biggest thing, was always scaring that she was going to screw up the gravy at Thanksgiving, right? So that's where it's also trusting what you're getting too. But usually when I'm at home, I will usually try not to connect asking the client who they want to connect with. But I will leave time, because sometimes, because I can't necessarily control who comes in and out, right? But I can ask if this person will come forward or not come forward, right? Because sometimes even on the other side, I've had an experience on the other side where they didn't believe what we do, right? So they were blocking themselves coming in. And then, so sometimes if I'm not connecting with a client or with somebody that they want, I ask, so in real life, or I said, if they were here in the physical, would they come and see a medium or believe in it? And they'll sometimes they'll say yes, sometimes, majority of the times it's like, no. It's like, oh, okay. Well, they might not come through then. But maybe if you can give them permission to come through, we can try again. Majority of the times, not all the time, but majority of the times, if you give that permission, they will come through. But also, too, I go, are they sometimes shy? They're like, yeah, they were pretty shy. Right? So because we don't really lose our personality when we cross over. We just lose our pain. Like nobody, when we cross over, you are not in pain or like any of that. And even if you have, say, ended your life, like there's this belief that if you've ended your life, you're, they are happy. They are in the other realm. Like they're not in hell or purgatory or, right? Like they're living their life.
I don't believe in that either.
God, that was such a great conversation with you, Rhonda, today. And as always, we've asked Rhonda to close out our episode with a card pull for our listeners. So take it away.
All right. So the card that I pulled, which is very interesting enough because it was kind of our topic and theme for the day, is really disengage from outcomes. Right? So it's just like, set your goal, know where you're going, but just trust with how you're getting there, right? Like a lot of people, it's just trusting that intuition on what to do next, as opposed to being tied to the outcome. It's like you're trying to control how it's going to happen, right? So it's just trusting that it's going to happen when it's supposed to happen. That's the other thing. It's in divine time, not your time.
Yes, that's right. Let go of that how and just trust. That was actually a message that I was getting lately. I just need to let go of control and how and what's going on and just throw it caution to the wind.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on again. If your listeners are interested in booking a session with me, I will create coupon code Reiki Life, Reiki Life 10, and you'll save
Awesome.
10% off.
Nice.
Woohoo.
That's
Thanks,
awesome.
Rhonda.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, thank you for having me on again. I've gotten a lot of business thanks to you guys. I said this was like the best
Awesome.
promotion and investment I've done.
And it's only your time.
Yes,
Nothing else.
and I enjoy talking about this, like this topic, and enjoy, you guys done so much for me. I really appreciate it. And it's just amazing how far reach you guys have.
Oh,
Like your show, when I have clients that come on saying they booked with me because they listen to you guys, they really enjoy what you do.
Oh.
And yes, I appreciate it very much.
Rhonda, where can people find you? What's the
So
best-
you can go to angelempowermentwellnesscenter.com/Rhonda-Sean.com. Like,
Okay.
I can send you the link if you want. I don't know
Yes,
if
we'll
we
put it
can
in the
put that
show notes.
Yeah,
in
for
the
sure.
in the
And you're on
description,
Facebook too, aren't you?
and then I'll also put the promo code as
Thanks.
well, because it'll be all capital letters or whatever. So,
Perfect.
and so that code will be good for anybody that listens. And thank you for listening.
Yeah,
All right.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Rhonda.
Thanks.
1, 2,